What's happening everyone, and welcome back to a brand new Enshrouded video. And in today's video I'm going to be giving you a bit of a beginner's guide and tips to help you survive in the game. This beginner's guide is going to focus primarily on early game mechanics, which you're likely to encounter within the first few hours of starting your campaign. And this guide does have several tips to help you stay alive during your adventure, whether that be solo or with a group and friends. So the game does feature streamlined survival mechanics such as cooking food, resting, and managing your stamina. Unlike many other survival games, Enshrouded doesn't necessarily have strict requirements when it comes to your character's daily needs. You don't really have to worry about hunger, thirst, or stress, and there's no carry weight, i.e. encumbrance, when you are logging around your essentials and your crafting materials. You just need to make sure you have some spare slots in your backpack, or you've built some storage containers at your base to put the materials into that you're not currently using. The sort of survival aspect comes in the form of your character's stamina, which is tied to your character's comfort level, which includes the following: cooking and eating food. You can cook your food at campfires or at a fireplace. All you have to do is interact with one and select a type of raw ingredients from your backpack and make sure it's in your hotbar. When you've selected the item from your hotbar, you just simply need to press and hold a button to hold it over the fire until it's cooked. To know whether or not it's cooked, after a few seconds you'll see an effect that denotes that the food is ready to be eaten. And it's worth noting at the moment you can eat 3 different types of food to have 3 effects or buffs active at the same time. Like I said, food items need to be on your hotbar and not in your backpack. If they are in your backpack, you can't use them with the fire. You'll have to leave the fire, put the food items into your hotbar, and then go back to the fire to be able to cook them. You should also try avoid eating raw meat, as you may end up with a form of food poisoning in the game. You also need a source of warmth for your comfort, and the campfire and the fireplace do provide a source of warmth for you. The last aspect of the comfort is sleeping or resting. Finding a bed in the world or crafting one of your own will allow your character to increase their comfort, and if your character has a high comfort level and is well rested, you will gain additional stamina as well as increased stamina regeneration. The duration of the effect also depends on how long you have actually rested for. But don't worry, I have noticed that if you sleep in a bed, you don't have to wait half an hour for it to become daytime. The time does seem to speed up as long as your character is actually in a bed sleeping or resting. You should also make sure you are using the right tools when gathering resources in the game. When it comes to survival in Enshrouded, you should definitely avoid using your regular melee weapons when gathering materials. Instead, you should try crafting the proper tools, an axe or a pickaxe. An axe requires 4 twigs, 1 stone and 1 string, and this will speed up and improve the yield when cutting down trees. The pickaxe requires 4 twigs, 1 stone and 1 string as well, and has a small radius which automatically collects rocks and dirt that get hit. Other resources can be gathered normally even without the use of tools. For example, twigs and plant fiber come from shrubs that you find in the world and gather with your collect button. You can also collect rocks from the ground. When you find smaller rocks, you just simply press E or interact with them and you will gather stone from them. You don't necessarily need to use a pickaxe. You should also destroy and loot everything you find within the world of Enshrouded. While exploring the world, you should bear in mind that pretty much everything within the game can be destroyed with your weapons. Whether this is just your melee weapons or your magic, you can also use explosives that you find in the world. Some of the things that can be destroyed in the world are barrels, chests, crates, fences, panelings and furniture, and even some walls which will allow you to access other areas. When you destroy these items, they will also yield resources for your crafting needs. And some things like barrels and crates will actually have items inside that when you destroy you can collect for yourself. Some of the key features in the game are the flame altar and your base. The flame altar acts as a crux when it comes to progression and exploration. Any flame altar that you build or activate within the world has a radius or boundary. Once activated or built, you can start building structures within the radius, effectively making this a sort of base of operations. At flame altars, you may also summon NPCs that you've rescued and come across within the world. Due to the complexities within the game, I am looking at making a base building guide and a blacksmith or NPC guide. So if that's something you're interested in, please do let me know and I'll get to work on those. Your flame altars also act as fast travel points. However, you can't fast travel within the shroud. You must be out of the shroud and then you can fast travel back to any of your bases. Your main base is also where your character is likely to respawn if you perish while out exploring the world. Flame altars can also be upgraded and strengthened, as well as reset all of your skill points so you can reassign them. If you would like a more in-depth guide of the flame altars, please do let me know, and that is something else I will work on as well. One of the first things you should do in Enshrouded is speed up your exploration by getting the glider, the grapple hook, and also utilizing fast travel points. As I've mentioned before, flame altars do act as fast travel points, and you can fast travel at any point from anywhere as long as you're not in the shroud. I did mention that before as well. If you are in the shroud, you can't fast travel, you must get out of it first to be able to fast travel using the flame altars. You should also try to make a glider and a grapple hook as early as possible within the game to help you with traversal and navigation. I do have an in-depth guide on how to craft and make a glider and a grapple hook. I've already published that video, so that will be linked in the description and possibly the comments as well. To help with your survival while exploring, you should pay attention to your Shroud Timer. Beginners in Enshrouded should definitely take care when exploring areas such as the Shroud. The Shroud is a deadly and eerie fog, and if you spend too long in there, it will actually kill you. When you are in the Shroud, your visibility is reduced, and there are vicious cursed enemies waiting for you out there to come across. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of the Shroud is that there's a timer that counts down while you're in such areas. By default, you only have 5 minutes to reach a safe spot when traveling within the Shroud. Failure to reach these safe spots will result in death. Because of this, delving deeper into mini dungeons and caverns that are enveloped by the Shroud tend to turn into a race against time. However, while you are navigating the Shroud, it's worth noting that the shimmering lights guide your path forward, often floating towards lampposts that lead to safe areas. There are also some certain materials that can only be found in places corrupted by the Shroud. And again, if people want a more in-depth guide on the Shroud and a survival guide for it, please do let me know, and it's something I'll work on in the future. One of the better weapons in the game is the bow, so I would craft a bow as soon as possible when you get into the game. You should definitely look to craft a bow as fast as possible, as it only requires 5 twigs and 1 string. Wooden arrows, meanwhile, only cost 3 twigs, and when you craft 1 set of arrows, you get 10 arrows to put in your quiver. A big reason to use the bow is because of the enemy AIs and their pattern. Enemies in Enshrouded tend to patrol specific spots. If they detect you or you aggro them, they'll only run after you for a certain distance before returning to their original location. So if you manage to see them and snipe them from further away with your bow, you can hit them several times before they even get anywhere near you. I would highly recommend trying to clear your first Elixir well and Ancient Spire as soon as possible. A good example of exploiting the enemy AI and pattern within the game comes in the quest Enter the Elixir Well. In it, you have to explore the depths of a shroud-infested location, and you'll encounter a fell Thunderbrute. A guide for this fight is you can shoot arrows into it while backing away to the wooden steps. After a certain distance, the target's AI will cause it to return to its original position, but it will still aggro on you when you do hit it or get too close to it. As long as you repeatedly damage it or aggro it, without it resetting its original spot or health points, you'll be able to beat it quite easily. Some battle rewards include the Misfortune Mace weapon and a Shroud Core, which is used to upgrade the Flame Altar. The mini dungeon itself has a chest which contains the Wildwood Shortbow, and past this point in the game there will be another quest called the Ancient Spires. To reach the tower and structure though, you must have the glider and grapple hook. You then have to complete several platforming sections with traps before you reach the very top, and it provides an awesome view of the surrounding countryside. That means you'll be able to use the glider to reach far off locations, essentially opening up the sandbox campaign in just a couple of hours. However, if you do perish in the game, it's worth avoiding losing your items in mid-air. A lot of people find the game easy, but a lot of people will die many times in the game, and here's what you need to know about death in Enshrouded. When you die, you will drop the contents of your backpack, but you can retrieve them by returning to a location marked on your map, and there will be a glowing container there which will contain the items from your backpack. It's worth noting you do not lose any items you have on your hotbars when you do die. It is only the contents of your backpack. If you do die in midair though, don't worry about it. The container will be placed on the last solid piece of ground that your character was stood on prior to dying. So if you fall off a mountain and die, the last solid piece of land you touched before dying will be where your container is. So if you jump from a very high place with your glider, don't touch anything else and then die while gliding, the place you jump from will be where your container is. It seems very straightforward, but it can get a bit tricky. If you do use your glider and then you end up catching a branch, say, when you are gliding, if you stand on the branch for a brief second and then continue to glide and die, your container will be put on the branch that you stood on when you have been gliding. So some locations can get a little bit tricky to reach. So if you are going to be gliding around the map and using your grapple, just be careful where you do actually touch while gliding or grappling. So if you are gliding around the map, try and stay away from any solid structures unless you can land on them properly or you mean to land on them, just to save your container from being placed in a hard to reach location if you do accidentally die. And that is it for my beginner's guide on Enshrouded and tips to help you survive. Please do let me know down in the comment section below if you do have any other tips to share with players that I haven't covered in this video which will help them survive, or if you just have any general information about the game that you would like to share. If you have enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, make sure to smash a like on it to show support for the game on the channel. And if you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful and want to see more, make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date with all future releases. But other than that, we'll see you in the next video.